are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis Smiley. I'm Everyday People, and I'm delighted to have you, Everyday People, tuned into our program today, and especially in this hour. And in this hour, our guest is Ronald Olivier, who was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for second-degree murder in one of America's most notoriously brutal prisons, the Louisiana State Penitentiary, better known to most of us as Angola. We've all heard about Angola. He lost his life but found it again inside a prison cell. Following a miraculous release, which we'll get to, of course, in this hour, he transitioned, get this, from incarceration to director of chaplaincy at the Mississippi State Penitentiary. It is quite the story. In this hour, Ronald Olivier in his own words. Ronald, how are you today, sir? Good to have you on this program.
Oh, great, wonderful, man. Glad to be here, man.
I'm delighted to have you on. I'm glad we got the hour. There's a whole lot to unpack about your backstory, and I hope that this conversation, I'm certain that it will be instructive, informative, inspiring, empowering for all those who get a chance to hear. So thank you for the opportunity. Ronald has a book out. It's called 27 Summers, My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption during my time in Angola prison. And there's a whole lot to unpack just in that title. For starters, 27 Summers, then his journey to freedom, then forgiveness, then redemption. And all of this taking place during his time in Angola. A whole lot to unpack. I don't need much more than just the title to take this thing for the next hour. But there's a lot inside the book that we'll get to in this hour. Ronald, let me start with this. I'm watching this clock. I'm going to manage this as nice as we can to give the audience a taste of your story. Can't do justice to it in these 50-plus minutes. But let me start with this question. Tell me about your upbringing, where you were born, where you were raised. I want to just set the stage for what life was like for young Ronald.
Well, I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, a very poverty-stricken area. I can remember my family, my mother moved from the 7th ward to the 8th ward. You know, New Orleans is separated into different wards. And so we moved to the 8th ward. I'll never forget when we moved there. Very nice, calm neighborhood. I used to stand on my porch and feed the birds. But something happened in the late 1980s where this crack epidemic came and completely destroyed the neighborhood. And with it came was drugs. Drugs brought violence. You know, a lot of violence came to the point where the birds didn't even come out anymore. That's how bad it was. And so also during this period of transition in my neighborhood, my dad, who, man, was my hero, still is, man, have a real great father. And he was making a transition from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. You know, prior to that, I spent weekends with him, summers, some holidays, and he was always there, even though we didn't, you know, stay in the same household. He was always there. And so when he moved, man, it literally rocked my world. And I kind of, just 14, 15-year-old, couldn't digest that. I didn't know how to process that, and I was very angry. I was hurt, and I felt abandoned. And so here it is. During that time, the transition in the neighborhood, the crack epidemic, and so there was a lot of violence. It was very common to hear gunshots and sirens all through the night. Till I became accustomed to that and seeing people get shot, seeing people get killed, and seeing bodies in the street as a result of gun violence and all. And so, my dad wasn't there, and so, hey, the streets began to fall to me. It became survival, till I had a gun everywhere I went. And so, soon the drug dealers began to be appealing to me. I liked the cars they had, the rims, the sound that they had, and they coming from their cars, and all the females that attracted. So that's where I kind of set my focus to. And me and a couple of my friends started selling drugs. And so that was the trade we chose at the moment. But they had other people in the neighborhoods, that had another trade. Their trade was to rob the drug dealers. And so, it had got so bad to where they would rob so many people that they would forget who they robbed and end up pumping gas next to them or in the store, and it was getting killed. And so instead of finding them another profession, they chose that whoever we rob, we're going to have to kill them. And so that put the drug dealers on alert, and, man, a lot of violence, a lot of people died from that. But and so that's the setting of what I'm growing up in.
Sure.
A kid's greatest teacher is not what they hear, is what they see. And so I became a part of that.
That's a beautiful setup. It's a beautiful setup. You answered my question as expertly as anyone ever has in all of my years of doing this. I love the frame that we're in. I love the setup, and now it's going to get good when we come forward. So you understand what Ronald Olivier was going through. There's already a lot to interrogate just about his father. And I'm just listening to him. I've heard these stories so many times. His story is uniquely different because, as you'll learn as we move through this hour, he goes from being incarcerated to being the director of chaplaincy at a Mississippi State Penitentiary. So it's quite the story. There's a lot more to share with you. But I'm listening to Ronald talk, as I'm sure you are, and it never ceases to amaze me. All the hell that our community endured during this and because of this crack epidemic. I mean, I've heard these stories countless times, and every time I hear them, it makes my heart bleed and makes my heart weep every time, because you think of all the damage, the collateral damage that was done to our community during and because of this crack epidemic, and we could talk about how that came to be. All I'll say is Negroes don't own no planes, and we don't own no. You get my point. Anyway, this was visited upon our community in a variety of ways, and the stories of the damage done never ceases to amaze me. Ronald Olivier is our guest in this hour. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfected like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since 92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Come with 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling. Bustin', truckin'. Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range. On a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection. Consistent with the CHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Ask any former youth in foster care what they missed most while growing up, and they will most likely answer, someone to show me unconditional love. Now, isn't that something we all wished we could experience? Here in Los Angeles, Up to 40% of homeless youth on our streets identify as LGBTQ+. The most prevalent reason for homelessness among this population is the rejection they've experienced from their own families. The LA County Department of Children and Family Services and Raise a Child are searching for safe, nurturing, and affirming foster parents within our community willing to stand up and serve all children and youth in foster care, especially LGBTQ youth. Learn the many benefits to becoming a foster parent. Attend a free Raise a Child virtual or in-person informational event to learn more. RSVP now at raiseachild.org. That's raiseachild.org. And thank you. KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of This Light of Ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement, a dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This Light of Ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This Light of Ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Just getting started really in this hour. Our guest is Ronald Olivier, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for second-degree murder in one of America's most notoriously brutal prisons, the Louisiana State Penitentiary, better known, of course, as Angola. Ronald, let me come to a couple of things you've already said. Let me start by saying I'm delighted to have you on, and since you mentioned New Orleans, let me shout out WBOK 1230 AM, our affiliate in New Orleans, on which this story is being heard by many New Orleanians right about now. So shout out to WBOK 1230 AM in the city of in the Big Easy. So Ronald, tell me before we go forward, I want to just pause for a second. Tell me more about your father, and I'm asking this question in part because when we hear stories like these of young boys, 14, 15, getting lost and getting into the drug game, and in your case, during the crack epidemic, and now they've got weapons and they're involved in all kinds of activities, including violence, and they find themselves in prison for second-degree murder, as you did. We'll come to that part of the story in a moment. But when we hear these stories, the first thing that comes to mind is that there was an absentee father. More often than not, we associate these kinds of stories with the father not being around. You mentioned that your father moved to Baton Rouge. I get that part. But your father was there. He was not an absent father. He was present. He was active. He was engaged in your life. And moreover, you said your father was your hero. So you don't have the typical story of an absent father. Tell me about your dad and why your dad was your hero, and then we'll go forward from there.
Oh, my dad, I grew up, like going by my dad on weekends and, spending different holidays with him and also the summers. And there was one school year that I actually did vice versa, and I, spent the weekends with my mother. Mm-hmm. But my dad was, man, everything to me. He was a very disciplined father. He didn't play, but he was a very loving father. Mm. He was very intentional in his parenting and very strategic, and man, he was very loving. He always took us fishing, always, took us places. I can remember in 1985, I was 10 years old. He took us all on a cruise. That was our Christmas present. Mm. And so he always hung out with us, whether we were just on the ground, on the floor, in the living room, wrestling, just playing. And he was just a loving, fun father, I can remember he'd come in wee hours from going out and just come in on the weekends and turn the radio up and wake everybody up in the house, and you couldn't go back to sleep till you danced with him. And so this was the type of father he was.
Yeah.
And so that really pained me when he left, I had really missed that. And I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of guys didn't have fathers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so they didn't have that story. Their dad wanted to come and get them on the weekend, you know, and spending time with them. And so that was common to see. And so I guess I made the translation that when he left and moved to Jacksonville, Florida, that there it is. I'm fatherless now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just like them. You know. And so, man, he was everything to me.
No, I hear that, and I want to just pause for a second and to hear more about that because fathers who actually represent, fathers who show up, don't get shouted out often enough. But when we hear stories like these, again, we will jump immediately to the absentee father narrative, but we don't shout out the dads who are there representing and loving and dancing with their kids at all hours of the night. So, all right. That's that. Let me get back to the story that you were telling a moment ago because you sort of paused at the point where you're now carrying weapons. You're in the drug game, but the drug dealers are being targeted and being robbed, and that raises the stakes now because if you're going to rob somebody, you might as well go ahead and kill them so they don't come after you. So this is a high stakes game in the crack epidemic era. Somewhere along the way, you end up murdering somebody. You end up having to face allegations of second-degree murder. Take a moment to tell me that part of the story, and we'll go from there, Ronald Olivier.
And so my life transitioned in the drug game and trying to survive. And so here it is. I had got into an altercation with a guy. In fact, me and a couple of my friends had jumped him. And so the next time we see him is Christmas Day. You know, and it's in downtown New Orleans on Canal Street, and so I'm with two other guys, and he felt like we were outnumbered. He was with about 6 guys, and they began to follow us and pursue us, and I had a gun on me, you know, and I had a friend of mine. You'll read about him, Leaky, telling me, you know, he was like my voice of reason. I could have been always in trouble if it wasn't for Leaky. But Leaky like, man, let's just go, man. Let's just leave. I'm like, man, we just got out here, man. We're not leaving. And so I go ahead. We try to leave. We try to get on the bus. They try to pull me off the bus. I turn around and shoot. 2 people end up in a pool of blood. One survived and one didn't. So 2 days later, I end up at the Juvenile Bureau concerning this. And so I've been to the Juvenile Bureau a few times for some minor things, simple robbery, assault, theft, you know, and my mother come sign me out. And so I was just looking for my mother to sign me out on this one, not realizing the seriousness of it. And so mom couldn't sign me out that one.
And you're what age at this point, Ronald?
I'm 16 years old.
16. There you go. All right, keep going.
I'm 16, and so here it is. I'm there going back and forth to the juvenile court. I think it was the second time I went. They charged me as an adult, and I was transferred across the street to the adult courts, and so they now charge me with first-degree murder. I'm now facing the death penalty, and at
16
years old. And so by the time I go to trial, I'm 17 years old, and up until that point, everything was like fun and games with me. I know I'm going home. This not gonna last long. I'm very optimistic about it. But when the jury was deliberating, and they put me in a holding tank. It was about 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. They put me in that cell. I could still hear that cell slam and the key turn as the guard walked away and leave me in a cell by myself. And everything got real to me then. And I started to think, okay, there's 12 people that don't know really anything about me that's making the decision on whether I live or die. And I started to think, man, I can really die. They can come back with, you know, guilty verdict of first-degree murder. And I'm like, man, I don't want to die. And then I can hear this, and I believe it was God using my mother's voice. My mother was a praying woman, and I thank God for her prayers. She told me this one day. She said, baby, if you ever in trouble that I can't get you out, you make sure you call on Jesus. And right there in the cell, man, I began to call on Jesus and cry out. I had a very simple prayer. A lot of people say you're not supposed to make deals with God. I made a deal with him. I said, Lord, if you don't let them kill me, I'll serve you the rest of my life. And for the first time in my life, I didn't know what it was then, but for the first time in my life, I experienced the peace of God. It was a calmness that came over me and an assurance that somehow I was going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So they come back with the lesser verdict, which was the responsive verdict, second-degree murder. They come back with guilty for second-degree murder, and which I didn't know it carried a mandatory life sentence without benefits of parole or probation. And translates in layman terms, you die in prison. Mm-hmm. And so that really stunned me then, but I still felt that type of peace. That assurance that I was going to be okay. I like to tell it like this. In that holding tank, I think I received 2 life sentences, one from the state and one from the law. Mm-hmm. And while they were giving me life, he was giving me life. Yeah. And I believe his life swallowed up their life.
Let me jump.
Yeah, I found myself on this journey.
No.
Yes, sir.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted you to finish that point. Let me jump in, though. I want to ask a couple questions right quick here. One, and I'm jumping around and jumping ahead, and we'll come back. But in retrospect now, we ain't got to the best part of your story, the miraculous release. Mm-hmm. You're 17 years of age. They're charging you as an adult. You now are facing you're serving now a life sentence at 17 years of age. That piece notwithstanding, you still locked up for the rest of your life at this point. So in retrospect now, tell me right quick what's your view of the state charging kids, 16-year-olds, as adults?
Oh, man, it's horrible, and it was so hypocritical, and man, because kids are not allowed to even buy cigarettes. That kind of stunned me when I got to Angola and I saw at the canteen they had a sign up that you can't buy cigarettes under the age of 21. But you can have someone in the penitentiary under the age of 21.
Lord.
Kids, at the age of 16, 17, you cannot even get married or go into the military. They have all these limitations on kids because they're not fully mature. But you can let them go to the penitentiary.
Let me pause on that for a second, Ronald. That thing just hit me, man. It hit me, so I can only imagine how it hit you, and I want to hear specifically how it hit you. So here you are, you're 17, you are locked up for the rest of your life, and you see a sign that you can't buy cigarettes under 21, but they locking you up for life at 17. How did you process that?
Man, it really confused me.
Yeah.
And how the state can do that, my mind couldn't grasp it. It didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, is this real? Is this a joke? But and then I went to thinking about how you couldn't buy alcohol. We used to get somebody who was older outside the store to go in and buy alcohol or something for us because we couldn't get it. But here it is. You can charge me as an adult and give me a mandatory life sentence without benefits of parole or probation. This life completely gone. Man, that was so wrong.
No, I hear you. I wanted to pause for a second to just get your take in real time on how you now process the state charging kids as adults and locking them up for life for a mistake made at 16 years of age. Let me ask you right quick here now about your father. you knew this was coming. You had to know it was coming because your dad was your hero. And now you have disappointed, and disappointed ain't a strong enough word, but you've disappointed the person who is your hero. So when you're in prison thinking about that, you're thinking what? You don't let your dad down, Ronald.
Right. And still, I was kind of optimistic. I never forget. I wanted to see him, and amazingly, just 2-3 weeks ago, they sent me a letter that I wrote them at the age of 17, right after I got sentenced. And I read the letter of this 17-year-old, and it blew my mind. How I still was very optimistic. I still was saying, man, it's not over. I'm not giving up. I said in the letter, I'm not giving up on God. I just asked them not to give up on me. And I apologized to them, the shame that I brought to the family, the embarrassment. But this is where I'm at, and I need y'all. You
just read this letter a few weeks ago?
Just a few weeks ago, they sent it. They found it and sent it, and it blew my mind.
Wow. What? Let me do this. I'm out of time for a second here, at least. Let me continue when we come forward. I don't want to ask you a question to give you 25 seconds to answer. I want to know what's going through your head now, all these years later. Right? We ain't got even to the best part of the story yet. I'm jumping around, as I said. But I'm curious as to how you read that letter all these years later, what you were saying as a 17-year-old kid who was serving a life without the possibility, without the benefits of probation or parole, how you read that letter now, all these years later. And then again, as I said, we're going to spend some more time in this cell with Ronald Olivier and work our way up to this miraculous release that he was never supposed to receive, and all the work he has done since then and doing even today. You're listening to Ronald Olivier on Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when they switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. The University of Virginia is delaying the release of a report about a shooting that left 3 black student athletes dead last year. The university announced Friday that it will now hold the release of the report until after the trial of the suspect in the shooting. University officials say releasing the report could now influence the result of the trial of Christopher Darnell Jones Jr. Jones has been charged with multiple counts of aggravated murder and aggravated malicious wounding in the case. Actor Wayne Brady, who is black, is recovering after getting into a car accident that ended with a fight in California. Brady's car was hit by another vehicle in Malibu Sunday night. When Brady and the other driver pulled over, the two got into an altercation that turned physical. The other driver fled after the fight when Brady called police and was eventually arrested for battery, DUI, and hit and run. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find fast track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. The Clippers get their first road win of the season. They were in San Antonio last night and won by 25. Best stat of the night belongs to James Harden. 10 assists and no turnovers Cowboys in 28 minutes. The Lakers play Utah tonight at Crypto.com, 7 p.m. tip-off on TNT. Sad news in the Lakers family. The brother of former Lakers star Michael Cooper was fatally shot early Sunday morning in Washington Park, a park in Pasadena. Mickey Cooper was gunned down in the same park where he and Michael grew up playing basketball. Pasadena police have a 24-year-old male suspect in custody. Mickey Cooper was 64. UCLA's men's basketball team lost by 2 to number 4 Marquette in the Maui Invitational. The USC women's team got 15 points from freshman Juju Watkins to beat Seton Hall in a first-round tournament game in the Bahamas. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
No young person should ever have to worry about having a safe place to sleep at night, or whether anyone cares about them.
But the reality is, 1 in 10 young adults will experience a form of homelessness this year.
For over 50 years, Covenant House has been helping youth in crisis and giving them the support and tools they need to succeed in life. To learn more, go to covenanthouse.org today. Thank you for caring.
1 in 4 Americans today are living with a disability. I'm one of them. People with disabilities are extremely talented, resilient problem solvers that have so much to offer. And we've got a trusted ally on our side, an organization we can rely on, Easter Seals. Easter Seals is leading the way to full equity, inclusion, and access to healthcare, employment, and education for people with disabilities, families, and communities. That's my Easter Seals. Make it yours.
Learn more and get involved at easterseals.com.
If you're a veteran with a service-connected disability that is directly impacting your ability to work, resources are available to help you find employment. VA's Veteran Readiness and Employment, or VR&E, can assist you with finding a job that uses your existing skills. Or, if you're interested in exploring a new field, a VR&E counselor can help you determine the right education or training options for a new career. Find out if VR&E is right for you by visiting va.gov/VRE today.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley in conversation with Ronald Olivier. His book is called 27 Summers. My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption During My Time in Angola Prison. If the title doesn't explain to you what we're talking about, then I can't help you. But that's the title, 27 Summers, My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption During My Time in Angola Prison. So let me jump right to that part of the story, Ronald Olivier, watching my clock here. Give me a sense of what it was like serving time in Angola. I mentioned earlier it's one of the nation's most notorious and brutal prisons. I've seen documentaries about it. I've interviewed people connected to it. We all know about Angola. There are a number of prisons in this country that people just know by name. You say Louisiana, people know Angola. You say New York, we know Rikers. You say California. I mean, again, it's sad, but we know many locales in this country by the stories about the prisons in those particular areas. So we know about Angola. But as a 17-year-old, and for all the years, those 27 summers you were there, how did you navigate being inside of Angola?
And so by the time I get to Angola, I'm 18 years old. I was 5'11", 131 pounds, didn't even have a string in my face. I looked like I was about 12. And so I never forget going down the long 20-mile snake road to Angola, Tunica Hill. And I'm thinking about all the stories I heard about Angola. And one of the things was that they preyed upon the young. They were rape them and make them their girlfriends and do all type of things for them, you know. And it was treated like property. They'll sell them to another inmate for some cigarettes and things like this. And so I had made up my mind that I'm going through this gate. I'm going through this gate a man, and I'm going to leave out a man when I'm walking, or they're sending me home in a box dead. I'll be a man. And so that's my mindset. And so I go there with that chip on my shoulder and challenging anything that didn't sound right, you know. And just amazingly, you know, I thought it was because I was just so bad and I was, you know, not going to let anybody just disrespect me and do anything. But retrospect, I can look back and see, man, God was protecting me. He was orchestrating this whole plan, and I end up going around a lot of guys who was willing to help me and not hurt me. And so guys began to mentor me and see things in me I didn't see, you know. God pushed me to go to school to get my GED, pushed me into public speaking classes, just so many positive things. And then soon after that, I end up in the Bible college, you know. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. Before that, you know, all these guys who were mentoring me and really discipling me and really explaining to me what happened to me in that holding tank, and how, you know, it's a must that I like update my mind and renew my mind to what happens to me in my spirit, you know, because I was doing some of the same things, talking the same way, had a real bad mouth with profanity. But the difference was I was being convicted. I didn't feel comfortable doing it anymore. I knew something had changed, but I didn't know how to, you know, to process. And so they went to telling me the importance of, you know, getting in your Bible, reading your Bible, fellowshipping with other believers, and developing a prayer life, spending time with God. And I went to doing that, and man, my life went to changing. And it went to looking like on the outside what happened to me on the inside in that cell.
Yeah.
And
No.
soon after that, I found myself in the Bible college. They had a Bible college established there, the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. And I went to Bible college for 4 years and received a bachelor's degree in Christian ministry. It was awesome. You know, they had professors that came from the outside that, you know, lectured us and give us exams, just like any other college. And we had a real graduation where we can invite family and friends. We had caps and gowns. The faculty came with all their caps and gowns. They had a real graduation ceremony.
This is a perfect. This is a perfect place to jump in, because we were talking earlier before the break about that letter that was sent to you that you just read literally a few weeks ago, reflecting, which allowed you at least to reflect on your 17-year-old self. Before I get too far into the story, let me pause again and ask you to tell me what you saw literally just 3 weeks ago when you read what 17-year-old Ronald was writing.
Man, I saw a letter of a little boy that was full of pain. He was hurt because I was responding also to a request I had asked my dad. He was coming down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, and I was asking him to come see me. and he told me, man, I don't visit jails. I don't visit prisons. And that crushed me, and I was responding to him, letting him know how that made me feel, and how if I had a son, I wouldn't care where he was. I was going to see him, and so I was seeing a lot of hurt there. But overall, this would really bless me. Man, I saw nothing but hope in that letter. I didn't see a hopeless little boy. You know how I actually thought I was into that letter. I was like, man, I was still full of hope. And I made a statement in there, and this is verbatim. I said, man, I'm not going to stop, and I'm not giving up on God. And I just pray y'all don't give up on me. Yeah. You know.
Now you mentioned that hope thing, and that speaking of the Bible, that scripture just jumped out at me. That if in this life we didn't have hope, we'd be of all men most miserable. If in this life we didn't have hope, we'd be of all men most miserable. Hope is a powerful thing, man. I was giving a speech not long ago, and I was making the point, Ronald, that you can build a whole life on nothing but hope. All you need is hope. You can build a whole life on nothing but hope. It's a powerful force, and again, that scripture that scripture came to mind when you said you saw in that letter a young man who was 17 facing the rest of his life behind bars, but you saw hope in that letter. I can't not ask you about your father. Your father sort of sounds like me. I've got 9 brothers and sisters, and I can't begin to tell you the number of times. And of course, they learn how I roll. I've put brothers and sisters through college. I've helped them buy houses. I've done all kinds of things. I've been blessed, and I've passed those blessings on to my siblings. But they know that if you call Tavis to bail you out, I ain't responding. If you want me to come visit you, I ain't coming. I just don't. That's my tough love. I don't do that. I'll help you in every pursuit. I'll talk to you. I'll counsel you. I'm there for you. But I don't do prisons, and I don't do bail. That ain't what I do. You get yourself in trouble, you're going to navigate your way through it. I'm going to love you through it, but I'm like your dad. One can agree or disagree with that, but I'm like your dad and I are simpatico in that regard. We're the same. I know that had to crush you when your dad told you that. My question is, did he ever change his mind about visiting you in prison?
Changed his mind. Oh, man, he visited me so many times.
Oh, okay.
Amazingly. I'm talking about God. And it was very odd because in the visiting shed, mostly you see is women. You don't see father and son. That wasn't common.
Right.
In the visiting shed.
Yeah.
You know, and so my dad, I come from a very affectionate family. Man, my grandfather would greet us with hugs and a kiss on the jaw. My dad, every time he hugged me, he gonna kiss me on the jaw, even to this day. You know.
Yeah.
And so guys will see that in the visiting shed. My dad hugged me and kissed me. You know, and it thought it strange, like, man, you know, what's going on here? And so, man, we had some amazing visits. Amazing visits.
No,
man.
I'm glad. Again, I said I'm like your father, but I'm glad the Lord worked on your father's heart. I'm glad your father came to visit you time and time again while you were incarcerated. Now, when we come forward, we're going to get to the sweet part of this story. But that's a sweet story right there, that his dad comes to hang out with him. And again, of course, the shed is full of women. Why? As I said earlier, because most of these men come from absentee father families. And so that's why you got all these women there. Their daddy ain't coming to check them out. Daddy ain't been around their whole lives. It makes perfect sense to me. But I love the story of his dad hugging him and kissing him, and all the guys on the yard seeing that and having a hard time trying to process that. It makes sense. It's a sad reality, but it makes sense. All right, we've already established that he's in prison in Angola. Not just a prison. This is Angola, tough prison. He's there for the rest of his life without any possibility of parole or probation, and yet somehow he's out because he's talking to me right now on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any Black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you was.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at soundidouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Ronald Olivier, before I get to this miraculous release that you ultimately encountered, that you talk about in great detail in your book, 27 Summers, My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption During My Time in Angola Prison. Tell me about the person. There were two persons that you shot. One survived. They both bled, both bleeding, of course, bleeding out. One survived. The other perished. Mm-hmm. And for that, you found yourself in prison for the rest of your life in Angola. Obviously, you've had some remorse. You had a lot of time to think about that. But tell me what you've thought about the person that you murdered.
And so once my life began to change and God started to really renew my mind, I started to see life from a different perspective now. And I started to value life, where life was devalued in the neighborhood where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
It was common to see bodies, so you didn't really feel anything. But when God changed my heart, man, I'm starting to, I really took someone's life. That was someone's son. That was someone's cousin. That was someone, he had all these relationships connected to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll never forget, I went to a class called Victim Awareness, and it taught me about how it's a ripple effect of people that get hurt by just one person, being murdered, and I thought about how many people that I hurt, and also from my transformation and developing a prayer life, I started to pray for the mother of the victims. Out of everyone in the courtroom, I can't remember their face. I kind of vaguely remember the judge's face, but even my lawyer, I can't remember his face. The DA, but this lady's face burned in my mind. The victim's mother, I can still understand right now, crying, and so I started to pray for her. I developed, and I pray for her more than I pray for anybody in my life, and because man, I really had this great desire to one day to meet her and just to have a dialogue with her and just tell her how sorry I was.
Yeah.
That was greater than me going home. You know, that was the pinnacle of, man, my desires right there. If I could just, and I see stories like that on TV of some reconciliation, and man, always long for that. And man, very remorseful for what I had done.
Yeah. When we come forward, I could leave you hanging, but I'm not going to do that. I only have a few minutes left, but I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to let Ronald tell you this miraculous story of how he got out and all the work he's done since then. He went from incarceration to being the chief chaplain at the Mississippi State Penitentiary, so he is paying it forward even all these years later. So it's not just remorse, he's paying it forward. But you'll hear the story of how he got out when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yes, so I was a banker for 20 years before I decided to become an entrepreneur. 7 of those years were actually at JP Morgan Chase. One of the biggest things that I had going into my entrepreneurial journey was a big background in banking.
So what advice are you giving business owners looking for financial backing today?
So Chase brings in so much knowledge and the opportunity to understand what financial tools are out there for business owners to build, grow, and scale their business. A lot of business owners will say, well, I need to get a loan immediately. Well, you wouldn't just lend money to your friend if you didn't know why they needed it. I tell every business owner, you need a business plan, you need financial projections, you need a banker. Because you have to start building a relationship with a banker so that they get comfortable with how you're going to build that business and so that they can eventually support you in different ways.
Makes sense. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Aisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
I have literally, Ronald Olivier, literally less than 3 minutes in this empowering conversation about grace and forgiveness and how God can redeem and restore even the most difficult and unlikely situations. In 90 seconds, tell me, and the folk can read it in the book, but just tease us with how you got out. You weren't supposed to ever get out, Ronald Olivier.
And so in 2012, the United States Supreme Court came down with a ruling in Miller versus Alabama that said it was unconstitutional to give a juvenile under the age of 18 a mandatory life sentence. And so when they came down with that ruling, that made my sentence illegal. I filed a motion to reconsider my sentence, to correct the illegal sentence, and got it granted and went back and got resentenced. And there at the resentencing hearing, I got an opportunity to meet the victim's mother face to face. I took responsibility for the crime I committed for her son and asked her to forgive me, and she said, "I forgive you." Oh, man, powerful. It's more detailed in the book, but, man, I gets out in 2018 of November. In fact, this month on the 30th will make 5 years I've been home. I'm married. I have a little 3-year-old son. We just bought a home, man, my first home. Man, this God just been blessing me miracle after miracle. When I got out, the warden, the former warden of Angola, Burl Kane, called me. He had begun to be the commissioner over Departments of Correction in Mississippi. And when he was looking for a chaplain, he called me. I get the job. I moved my family there, and man, the rest is history, man. Went there and did some great things.
The rest, as they say, is history, or as we say around here, won't he do it? Won't he will? Won't he do it? Yes. Won't he will? The book is called 27 Summers, My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption During My Time in Angola Prison. I told you it's a remarkable story, and I've just really scratched the surface on it. You have to get the book to read it for yourself. Again, 27 Summers, My Journey to Freedom, Forgiveness, and Redemption During My Time in Angola Prison. Let me just say this, Ron Olivier, I'm out of time, but you have blessed us in a mighty way in this hour, and I want to thank you for it. Wish you all the best. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays, brother. We deeply appreciate your work and witness.
Yes, sir, man. Don't tell me what God can't do.
Yeah, don't tell me what God can't do. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Toledo, Ohio police are working to locate a man that has not been heard from in more than